Now, did I hear I don't have an opening statement? I love it. That might be the best thing I've heard in a long time.
Talk about the pressure of being #1 rated in the conference.
Yeah, that doesn't mean anything to us, and so there's no more expectations put on us from the day that we walked into that building. We expect to be good and win games, and that's never changed. And so because other people, think that we might win some games, that doesn't really change our mindset. And so, I think the only thing about it for me is I like to be on a different team than you guys are on. I like to prove you wrong than rather prove you right. So now we're working to prove you right, I guess, rather than prove you wrong.
So competition, recruiting is very competitive in the Pac-12. What advantages do you sell for the Huskies and the Washington, for the Huskies in the area itself, the greater Seattle area?
Yeah, I think we have a lot of unique things to sell. I really do. Our whole thing is just looking for the right kid that fits us. And I think there's a lot of really good programs out there. And that's what this whole recruiting process is about, is figuring out where you fit the best. I mean, I tell the kids that we recruit, if you fit somewhere else better than Washington, then you should go there. I mean, it's not about selling a kid like this is a better place than wherever. It's about finding the right fit. And I think our coaches have been really good at that. And I always say, when you find the right place, the right fit, that's when the magic happens.
What's the quote-unquote Husky player, the right fit, the player that you're looking for?
Yeah, I think a guy that, is passionate about football, that understands the importance of school, doesn't have to love it, but understands he's going to do it and grind it. Great teammate, like a good dude that people like to be around. I mean, those are the guys that we're trying to find.
Thank you, Coach.
Yeah.
Chris, why has Utah been a tough matchup for you the last couple of years?
I don't know. I think they're a good team. I think that's probably the main thing is they play tough physical football and they're well coached. And I think Utah's a tough matchup for everybody. I don't think it's anything unique to us. Yeah.
Chris, any news on Hunter Bryant?
Who?
Hunter Bryant.
Who's that? Yeah. So Hunter did have surgery, and we'll just see how he progresses. He's not going to be ready at the start of the season. May end up being his redshirt year, especially with the 4 games that we can play. But he will not be ready at the start of the season, and it'll be a month or 2 before we can even kind of really see where he's at. The surgery went really, really well. It was a really unique injury, that they rehabbed it. The rehab was really going well for him to do spring football. And then just in a workout, it just kind of swelled up and wasn't acting right. And so then they did decide to go in there and felt really good about what they did. And our doctors usually don't come out saying we feel really good about, all this, but they did. So I think his long-term prognosis is really good. It's just going to take some time to get him back.
What does Byron Murphy need to do to kind of take that next step?
Well, I think play more. But Byron's played like 6 games for us, so I'm excited to see what he's going to do. But, he's played very little football for us in the big picture. And so it'll be fun to hopefully get him out there and keep him out there longer than we had him last year.
You saw him behind the scenes as a freshman, winning Scout Team Player of the Year, and then you saw that small glimpse. Just what does he bring to that secondary?
Yeah, I just think he's a real instinctual player. He's got really good ball skills. I think he's one of those guys that you see him in high school and he was a really spectacular receiver. A lot of times those DBs are on the other side of the ball because they can't catch, but he can catch. He has a knack for getting his hands on the ball. And that's what I kind of think about when I think about Byron, is just he's just got good instincts for the game. But like I said, I'm as excited as anyone to really see him go through a full season, compete day in and day out. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I haven't thought about it at all like that, like any one position. I just think there's going to be some freshmen that we play from the very start, and they're going to go play, and other guys are going to say we're going to redshirt them, and they might not get in the game at all. And then there's going to be other guys that will say, hey, maybe down the road, and then injuries are going to be a factor in all this type of things. So I don't think about it in terms of like any really one position. We'll just kind of see how it goes and how kids develop and how the injury thing goes for us. One second. Adam, did you have another question on?
I want to follow up on Hunter.
Yeah, okay. Go ahead.
Announced that on social media. Was that a discussion with him in particular about kind of his decision to put that out there at that time?
Yeah, it was.
Obviously,
it was not so much a discussion than really probably a look and a one-word, really? Other than that, and it's like, oh, yeah.
Well, I mean, it's such a promising start last year, obviously, as a true freshman year. How does that kind of dynamic?
It's football. You're going to have that. I mean, we haven't even got started, and we're talking about that. I mean, that's the game. We'll get him back. Next guy up. Next personnel group up. It is what it is. And so that's what I think.
Can we stay on the injury topics? Well, a lot of guys coming back.
Yeah.
By the end of last year, but we feel good about where everyone's at.
Yeah, everybody else is on progress. The progress is where we hoped they would be, and so we'll be smart with certain guys in camp. And it's a long season, and we got to build it. Not only you got to build up you got to build up your whole team. I think that's one of the things we've learned, to go from 0 to 100 miles an hour. Practice one is probably not the smartest thing to do because you haven't played football, but certainly with guys that have been injured for a long time, and we throw them into the mix. And so we'll have a plan for each one of those guys and be really smart with them. But everybody else is, where the trainers and doctors thought they would be.
What's been your assessment of the 10th assistant coach, Will Harris? You've had a few months now to be with him. What's been your assessment of the position overall, his just things like that?
Yeah, really good energy. Guys really like him. He has good knowledge, and he's learning our kind of system and our way of doing things. But he's, we look for fit in everything that we do, whether we're recruiting players or coaches, and he fits into, what we're doing real well, and he's made good progress in his time, with us.
And now you haven't mentioned about it, but the offer thing, what's the way to fix that in your mind? Because I know obviously you don't have all the answers. The offer thing, some schools offer more kids than others.
You're talking about recruiting.
Yeah, recruiting. How can you fix that? Is there a way to fix that, and what?
I can't worry about what everybody else does. I mean, we can't worry about the style of defense somebody throws at us or how somebody recruits. We just have to recruit our way. I mean, that's what we know. I can't fix the recruiting landscape the way that I think it should be, and so we just, we try to recruit the best way that we know how, that we try to be as honest and upfront with the kids as we can, and do it, our style and our way. And there's a lot of different styles, and there's a lot of ways that work.
And you've produced a lot of coaches in your time at Washington, from GAs now to Coach Alexander at Cal and things like that. When you send guys out into the coaching world, is there kind of a trust element there where you hope that they don't come back to, maybe it's one of those calls you got to make?
Yeah, I wish Jonathan and Justin weren't in this conference. I'm happy for them, but I'm like, I wish there was a lot of other places they were, like 130 other different schools and maybe in this conference. But it is what it is, and I'm happy for them. That's just kind of how it goes.
Chris, sports betting, it seems like it's something that college football is going to have to reckon with here sooner rather than later. For you, do you have any concerns about that becoming a thing?
Not really. I guess it's just another thing that we're going to have to deal with. I mean, I really hadn't given it much thought. I heard about that rule and didn't think twice until I guess we started talking about it, a few days ago. It always comes down to guys just doing the right thing, as us as coaches educating our guys on what is wrong, what is right, what is wrong, and guys are going to have to just do things with integrity and character. And I mean, whether it's legal to bet on games or not, to me, it's all the same. And so maybe this is just a topic that we're going to have to pay a little closer attention to, but I don't see it being a big thing with our guys.
There's been some conversation about injury reports becoming
Right.
required across college football.
Yeah.
Is that something that you're averse to, or?
I mean, what I would hope in college football is that whatever we're talking about, everybody's kind of on the same page, whether we're talking about transfers, who can get graduate transfers, whether we're talking about, injury, whether you're talking about how many league games a conference should play. Like, I just wish we were all doing the same stuff. And then we go from there.
Got a bunch of new coaches in the conference. You had to build at Washington. Difference between building and maintaining. Now you're in that. What's?
Yeah, they're both hard. Yeah, they're both hard. I mean, it doesn't feel like in the position that we're in that things are easier by any stretch of the imagination. It might feel a little bit different, but it's all equally hard. You're fighting every day you come into the office, whether you feel like and I think everybody still feels like you're building. I don't feel like we've even kind of arrived. I think we feel like, we're maybe more on the same page nowadays throughout the program, from doctors and trainers and players and academic people, all that. But then you have to fight for it every single day. I mean, it's just, that's what you do, whether you're talking about a team or a company. And so it's all equally hard work.
Pete Carroll was asked one time if it was harder to get to the top or stay there.
Yeah.
And he said, to get there.
Yeah. Yeah, and maybe if you, I don't know, ask Nick Saban, he might say to stay there. I think you can make a case either way. I think that, like I say, I think they're both really, really hard. We're trying to get there. We have not arrived. We've made some progress, but it's all hard work. I mean, I think you can truly, like, if you win a national championship, or 2 years ago we win the conference, and that's how you got to kind of think, is you got to think about just winning your first game and then your second game, and then hopefully, maybe you can win a conference. And that's, as we know, hard to repeat. We couldn't get it done this last year, so it's all equally hard.
Coach, obviously gives you some more flexibility to play guys, but
yeah.
How much more extra work is that going to create both preseason and during the season to kind of figure out what your strategy is going to be for those guys?
I don't know, because we haven't been through it. I'm not seeing it as extra work. I'm seeing it as like, we probably are going to make some decisions on some freshmen and go, you are playing. And there's going to be other guys that will say, in our mind, you're going to redshirt. And there'll probably be some other guys that will say, we'll just kind of see how this goes. I mean, that's kind of how we've done it every year anyways, but now we have a little more flexibility that we can actually get them on the field a little bit. So to me, it's comforting, it just really is. It's like we can do what's right for the kids. We're not going to necessarily get ourselves into a situation where, like, your game, whatever it is, 8, and we're like, holy smokes, we need to play this guy. We just don't have the bodies. And so I think it's, I think all coaches are happy with it.
You've advocated, obviously, for just 5 years of eligibility.
Yeah.
Do you see it? I mean, is this a step in that direction, do you think? Do you ever see there being enough consensus around that to go that way?
Probably not. I just know how things go. I think everybody's really happy with this. And, maybe they'll look at it and adjust it and say in a couple years, hey, yeah, why wouldn't you just give them 5 years? I mean, if they're ready to play 3 games, they play 3 games. We don't have to, have strategy behind this, like we're going to save them till the end or the first whatever. It's just play them if you need them. I mean, that's just always been my mindset, but I don't know how it'll go in the future.
Coach, when did the Auburn matchup materialize, and is that the sort of big intersectional you and your AD are going to look to get into in future years?
I don't know when I can't even, the scheduling is so handful of years out that I don't know when that came about. And I think all coaches and ADs are paying attention to, like, what's the right, what's the right mix. Yeah, and so I don't think there's a one right way, and I think the scheduling thing, as we all know, is really important. I think about even how your schedule falls during the season. Like, you're going to play these teams, but who has a bye in front of you? How many times you're on the road and you play that team that has a bye? Like, that is like hugely underrated. That happened to us last year. We played a couple emotional games, and then we went to Arizona State and they had a bye before us. And all that stuff matters. It all adds up.
Do the guys have an extra pep in the step going into the season?
Who?
Your guys, just with the Auburn game. Obviously, you've had high-profile games on the road to start last year, but this one, obviously, it's going to be a ranked team in SEC country. Do they have an extra pep in their step coming in?
I think our guys are always excited to play. They know how good Auburn is. They're not dumb. They've seen tape. But this whole thing about having extra, like, are we going to coach harder now? Because that doesn't make sense. You're always preparing as hard as you can. You're always super excited. The players are super excited to play that first game. So it doesn't seem that different. Like, do we know the type of opponent and that you're going to not be able to make nearly as many mistakes? Yeah. But the preparation isn't going to be different.
That game's been kind of hailed as a tone setter, not just for you, but for the Pac-12.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of a fair assessment.
It doesn't matter if it's fair or not. And I don't think it really, I don't think one game determines anything. We're talking about one game. So if we won that game and lost all the rest, that's going to make us like we're good, it's going to be the whole body of work. It's going to be the league, how they do in the bowls. It's just, I know everybody wants to put it all about this one thing, that the Pac-12 is either good or not on one game. That's totally unrealistic. So I don't look at it like that.
Coach, an early signing period now. Do you like it? Do you dislike it? What are the things?
We seem to have liked it. We had most of our guys signed in that early signing period, and so it kind of worked pretty good for us. I think everybody's kind of figuring out the spring visit thing. The problem with that is like, it just seems like it's pushing everything early. Like, we're pushing, the NCAA and we as are pushing things earlier in recruiting. And I think every coach would say earlier is not better. So what are we doing? We're working against ourselves, but it is what it is, and so you adapt and adjust.
Coach Jake going into his fourth year, going into his senior year.
Yep.
Great leader, seems to know the playbook inside and out. If he's going to take the next step, what does he need to do to take that next step?
I think for all these guys that played a lot for any player that's really going to be that elite, it's always about consistency. Jake plays really good football, and he's going to play good football, but to be that elite player, I think when you think about an elite person, it's just one of the things that would jump out at them is they're just so consistent in their behavior and what they do. Well, it's no different for like an elite player. You're not going to bait them into making bad decisions and bad plays. And so I say those words, but those are very difficult words to get done at that position, the most difficult position in all the sports, in my opinion, where the game's continually changing and they're throwing different wrinkles at you, and you're dependent on so many guys around you to not, somebody else, cover for somebody else that might do something wrong like that. You just made a great decision that might not look like a great decision to the people in the stands. And so it comes back to consistency of decision making.
You happy with your offensive line right now?
Love them that we haven't played one snap of football. They look great.
Who are some guys that didn't play last year or who weren't on the team last year that you expect to make an impact this year?
Yeah, I need my list in front of me. We had a small crew redshirt last year. I think there was about 9 guys in the class that redshirt. The rest played, so there was about 5 or 7 guys that played. So it's kind of a unique class that redshirted. But I think some of those guys that did redshirt, we're anxious to get a couple of those receivers going. There's a couple of linebackers in there. The linemen, the O-line that we redshirted, the O-line as well. So I think all those kids all have a chance to do something for us. And then, and then that's the beauty of college football. You always have these guys that are in kind of smaller roles, that their roles are going to increase. Now that Vita's gone, some of those D linemen, we'll see who emerges. And there's been a lot of talk about our receiver crew that I'm actually excited about. I mean, those kids have worked really hard. That group has had a very good offseason of grinding and getting better and kind of on a mission. And so don't know exactly what the combination will look like, but I think that's a group that I'm excited to see go play.
Coach, you played for Coach Soker.
Yes.
And I look back and that string of conference championships,
Yeah.
that's like the Joe DiMaggio record.
That's right.
Looking back, what was it that rubbed off to you think, that helped in your career?
Yeah, the main thing is just really the whole vibe and demeanor, the vibe of the program and the demeanor of the coaches in terms of how they coached us. One, they were unbelievable teachers of football. I mean, it was finally the first time that football really started to, make sense. In kind of a complicated, system. And just, they were really unbelievable people in terms of how they treated us, how they spoke to us. I don't ever remember nobody ever was in kids' faces or yelling at kids or if there was yelling on the field, it was all out of excitement and having fun. And that was just always so unique that I had never experienced or seen that before. And to a man, they were like that at Davis. And, that sets a cool foundation for you moving forward, whether you coach or not. But it's a good experience for all of us that were involved with that.
How different is the program going into this opener in Atlanta versus where it was 2 years ago, going into that playoff game against Alabama?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think that's to be determined. I thought you were going to say 5 years ago, your first game opening, which, feels a lot different, just guys on the same page. But, that's different because that was at the end of season. A team had gone through a lot of things and played a lot of good football. This team has played no good football, no football. And so to come out.
All right, we'll give Washington another minute here, so start wrapping
somebody
it up.
That caliber right away, that the margin for error is minuscule, will be a different challenge than we've had.
How about the program itself, though, just in terms of maybe off-the-field support and all that? How have you seen a progression, I guess, from then to now?
Yeah, I think once you get through the first couple of years and you get everybody going the same direction, that certainly feels different. I think the last couple of years, it's felt like we're kind of all on the same page, and that certainly doesn't mean like it's easy or we got there. I mean, you're still working your tail off day in and day out, but you have a lot of other people around you and people in the locker room that are already on the same page to get the others kind of going the same direction.
You brought up 5 years ago. This is the third straight school that you've spent at least 5 years at. What sort of advantages has that stability afforded you as a coach in a notoriously tumultuous industry?
Yeah, I think that, that's one of the negatives of the world that we live in, the business that we're in. It is so unpredictable and, very unstable. And, one of the things that I've been fortunate to be around is stable programs for the most part. I mean, I think that's one of the things the kids appreciate for the most part, that even in the recruiting game, they can look to us and look at the track record and, feel like there's going to be some stability, around there. And I think that's what everybody wants.
All right, that'll conclude this session with Washington.
Bias is real. Do you feel the East Coast bias?
Washington SID staff.
Rather than just say the East Coast bias, because it sounds like you're pointing fingers.
Student athletes, Jeff Bechtold and Brian Tom will be able to assist you with additional one-on-one opportunities during lunch.
It's the time, and there's no question there is. Just the nature of when we're playing our games, and it's so late back there. I mean, you talk to any of the people that are back there, they will tell you, yeah, that is hard to pay attention to what's going out there day in and day out.
10:30 start is tough.
Yeah. Okay, guys.